Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching Tesla Time News.
Episode 126.
On Now You Know.
What?
You know, wouldn't it be nice if we jazz things up a little bit this week?
You got it. Jazz it up. Here we go.
Now you know.
Huh? How about that?
That was exactly what I wanted.
Jazzed it right up, didn't it?
Yeah. All right, now I'm ready for the show.
Here we go.
As always, our show is brought to you by
Our amazing, super wonderful, nice, sweet, perfect Patreon supporters. We can't do this show without them every week.
and by the fabulous Fairfield Inn and Suites by Marriott Schaumburg, Illinois Hotel, where it's powered by solar energy.
We have a lot of exciting news this week. The earnings call was last week. We are going to cover that on In Depth, which is going to come out tomorrow on Tuesday. So if you are looking for stuff about the earnings call, you're going to have to wait one more day. But it's going to be a really good episode.
It's going to be long. We got a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah. So the Model 3 is officially available in China. And
yeah,
now,
all three variants.
yes. So the long-range all-wheel drive, the long-range rear-wheel drive, and performance. So they are still missing the mid-range, but this is still a pretty wide range of prices and options. For the Chinese market, I think that there was a huge built-up demand for it.
Unfortunately, they're having to pay that huge tariff on top of the price of the car. But as soon as the Gigafactory Shanghai gets built, that will go away.
Yep.
All right, so here's a really important video that I would like all of you out there across the world to share with your local fire departments if you can. It shows the emergency response to the Tesla Model 3 by Brock Archer from Advanced Extrication. Him, along with Jim Bolton from Reno Fire and the Fremont Fire Department, discuss and demonstrate vehicle rescue and extrication at incidents involving the Tesla Model 3, which it turns out is different than the Model S and the X.
Right. This is a really cool video, even if you are not going to send it to your fire department, which you should do. I want those jaws of life. You only need two of them to cut open a Model 3. I mean, what a cool tool.
Yeah.
It's just infinite force. Just awesome.
Would you only use it for good, though? I feel like you might...
I don't know what I'd use it for, honestly. I mean, there's not a lot in my life that I need to, crush and rip things open. But
I'm afraid that one day I'd go out and see that you had just been playing around with your Model 3. So
no, I wouldn't play with my Model 3.
Don't send him one, folks.
But anyway, I mean, this is a really, really interesting video. I had no idea, but basically what they can do is, there's the easy entry mode, right, for the Model 3 where the seat kind of moves back or whatever. Yep. What they are able to do is they cut a bunch of different things and then they use the jaw of life to basically move the dashboard away from you. Mm-hmm. What a nice, convenient feature. No, I mean...
you want Tesla to add that?
It was absolutely astounding. You should definitely go check it out.
This video could save a life. So if you could share it with your local fire department, it's an easy way for them to get trained on how to deal with this ever-increasing number of Model 3s. All right, so Jesse, what do pencils and Teslas have in common? I stumped you.
They both roll?
Not really. So I don't want to give it away too early because this episode is going to come out on Thursday. We have an episode that will explain what pencils and Teslas have in common.
Okay.
But I will give you some hints here. So in 2018, of all the battery minerals, spheronized purified graphite was the only one to see a price increase of about 20%, while in fact Chinese exports to Korea and Japan were up by almost 40% during the last quarter. So 2019 is shaping up to be another year of increased consumption for graphite. Does that give you a little hint?
Yeah, they have rubber on them. I'm catching up with you.
Still didn't get it. So the Nouveau Monde graphite mine in Canada is the only graphite mine that we're aware of that can process their materials using renewable energy. Their trucks, their machines are all electric and will run on clean hydropower. So we interviewed CEO Eric Desaulniers. We did a full interview with him, which will come out on Friday. But then we did a really cool episode about what graphite is on Thursday. So be ready for that.
So there's been a lot of talk about the S&P 500. And I just have a question. What does S&P stand for, and why is it 500?
So it stands for Standard and Poor 500. It's
Odd name.
Yeah, it's 500 companies, U.S. companies that are believed to be kind of the backbone of the U.S. economy. The idea is that if you look at how these 500 companies are doing, you'll get a good snapshot of how the U.S. economy is doing.
Interesting.
Whereas the Dow Jones is only 30 companies, 30 really gigantic companies. The Standard & Poor's companies are a bigger breadth of companies.
Okay, so there has been conjecture that Tesla will make it onto the S&P 500.
Yeah.
Basically because they've been profitable for now 2 quarters.
Yep.
And all they have to do now to become an S&P 500 company is to have 4 quarters of profitability.
Yep.
They finally reached their market,
consecutive quarters.
4 consecutive quarters of profitability, and they finally reached their market cap of at least $5.3 billion.
Yeah, they're way past. They're 10 times bigger than they have to be.
And so there's a couple of other things that they must meet.
Which they do.
Okay.
It's just the profitability.
So profitability for 4 consecutive quarters.
And it doesn't have to be profitability of any particular amount. It could be, a dollar.
Okay.
Right.
So just 2 more quarters of profitability, which Elon has said in the earnings call should happen.
Right.
And he said in the previous earnings call as well
Right.
that he sees Tesla being profitable going forward. So if they were to continue that, they would enter the S&P 500. Now,
I mean, it's not a guarantee. I will say it's not
absolutely,
a guarantee.
but let's talk about what happens if that's the case. So let's just talk about S&P 500. Again, you said it's the backbone of the U.S. economy.
Right.
We're talking about companies like Apple, Microsoft, ExxonMobil, Johnson & Johnson, General Electric, Amazon, Facebook, Berkshire Hathaway, AT&T, JP Morgan Chase. So
Right.
big companies.
Almost undoubtedly, Tesla would enter the list because there's only 2 American car companies, GM and Ford, and so Tesla being a third would almost undoubtedly get it on the list. And when it gets on the list, which I think would happen as soon as this summer or fall, it would mean that all over the world, all of the index funds, all of the funds that basically have to put these companies into their portfolios would have to start buying Tesla shares. So that would force hundreds, thousands of funds to buy Tesla shares.
Now, I am not a funds kind of guy. I don't know a lot about index funds and stuff like that. What is an index fund for everyone else?
Yeah, an index fund buys all, let's say it's a S&P 500 index fund. It would buy all the 500 companies so that you as an investor wouldn't have to go out and buy all 500 yourself. You could be instantly invested in the S&P 500 by buying a mutual fund share of that mutual fund. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So I would buy this mutual fund, which buys the S&P 500.
Right. And that dramatically lowers your average stock investment fees because you don't have to buy 500 different companies. And so they bought them just once and they hold them. And that's what's going to help stabilize Tesla, I believe, because you'll have all these funds around the world which cannot, by their very nature, trade the stock. Once they buy it, they have to hold it.
So, I mean, what happens when a FUD story comes out and the stock... Oh, is the stock going to drop? Would it drop as much, or now we're going to have this percentage that's going to be holding steady on Tesla?
Exactly. I feel like that would help stabilize it. Plus, if it's on the S&P 500, I feel like you now open up Tesla stock to a whole bunch of new investors who now say, oh, it's been profitable for at least 4 quarters. It's on the S&P 500, which means it fits my criteria for buying it.
Okay. And so I think that this might be one of the reasons why Elon has been pushing for profitability so much, when he could, if he wanted to, say, forget profitability, forget margins, let's just pump out as many cars as possible.
It's hard to short a stock that's on the S&P 500. Let's face it. Because to get there, you had to meet a lot of criteria. And so it's going to be a lot harder going forward for all of these big short players to say, oh, yeah, it's not going to live as a company.
I see. So, I mean, it gives it another level of legitimacy as a stock. Now, is it going to affect the stock price?
I believe it's going to help boost the stock price because, again, you're going to have a whole layer of mutual funds that are going to be buying into the stock, which is going to give it that kind of boost, if you can say, to the stock price.
Now, it obviously, we're not saying that it will happen. We're saying that it could happen and that it looks like it might happen.
Right.
So, anyway, I think that that's really exciting.
It is. So, Jesse, did you see this story on CNBC? Apparently, the pileup is coming.
So, yeah, this is interesting. Detroit-based consultancy Elix Partners put it bluntly in a study of the EV market released last year, warning that the auto industry is headed for a pileup of epic proportions.
You know what?
What?
I think they're right.
So let's talk about this pileup of epic proportions. They think that the EV market is going to explode with a bunch of new cars on the market, that there's going to be just EVs up the wazoo, and that is going to choke Tesla because Tesla is now going to have all of this competition, which it hasn't had up until this point.
Oh, okay. Well, so I disagree with that. I agree that there's going to be a pileup, meaning a bunch of cars sitting on dealer lots that are EVs that aren't going to be selling. That's the pileup I'm thinking of.
Okay.
I don't think Tesla is going to be part of that problem.
Let's first talk about Elon's response to this story. He said, "Exciting to see all the new electric vehicles coming to market. We created Tesla to accelerate a sustainable future, and it's happening." This kind of tweet is amazing.
Yeah.
No other CEO of any company would
welcome the competition.
Would first of all copy the link to a story that's basically saying that you're going to go out of business.
Right.
And then say, we're so happy that all these other companies are joining us, building a similar product to what we're building.
Right. And he went on to say, our true competition is not the small trickle of non-Tesla electric vehicles being produced, but rather the enormous flood of gasoline cars pouring out of the world's factories every day.
This is, I think, the very important point that he wants to bring up, and that I was also thinking about when I was reading this story. When they talk about this pileup of EVs, they are assuming that there is a certain segment of the population that wants EVs, and that the rest of the population only wants to buy gas cars.
Right.
They are not considering that EVs are cars.
Right.
They are considering that, oh, no, only some people want EVs. Now, I would argue that a lot of people don't know that they want EVs, but as soon as that they are exposed to it, they will be like, oh, I can just charge it at my house? Oh, I don't have to go to the gas station? Oh, I don't have to get oil changes every 3,000 miles? That sounds like the car for me. Oh, instant torque? Oh, absolutely. That sounds like fun. This is really the point, which is that other EVs are not Tesla's competition necessarily. I mean, sure, they are competition, but you also have to look at every other gas car on the planet being produced. That is Tesla's competition. When Tesla started, it's not like there were a bunch of people just walking around, like walking to work and being like, gee, I sure wish I could buy an EV, right? They were driving gas cars. And at some point they said, okay, I could either buy myself another gas car or I could buy myself a Tesla. And they chose Tesla. And that is the growth that we've been seeing in their sales. They're not stealing it from some other EV company. It's not like they're all going from like Leafs to Teslas.
No, they're stealing it from, the BMW 3 Series and from Honda Accords and from places you didn't even expect it to happen.
Or places you totally did expect it to happen, like Priuses.
Right.
Prius sales are plummeting because basically, if you wanted to buy a Prius, I mean, let's go back in time. If you were like, I'm going to buy a Prius, and people would be like, why do you want to buy a Prius? And they'd go, well, 1, it's good for the environment. 2, I'd be paying less for gas. And 3, I like the look of it. Just kidding. They never said that. But anyway, basically those 2 reasons, paying less for energy and good for the environment, were the 2 reasons they bought the Prius. Now, what has come along? Another car, and when the $35,000 Model 3 comes out, basically the same price, it's better for the environment, and it's even cheaper in energy costs.
And it is good looking.
Yes. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
This is the market that
Oh, and
Tesla,
it drives fantastically.
Right.
And has autopilot.
And this is the market that Tesla's going to be eating into. But now you were saying that there is going to be a pileup of EVs.
Yeah, well, so get this. GM CEO Mary Barra says that GM is on the path to an all-electric future, and that she wants this to happen. My question...
I mean, that's really good.
Yes,
that's
but...
a wonderful thing to say.
Okay. What does Mary Barra drive to work every day?
I mean, if she is like all about this electric future, I would expect her to drive, an electric car, a Chevy Bolt, right? It's Chevy. It's an electric car. Drive the Chevy Bolt to work every day, right?
She drives a Cadillac. So here's the thing. If she really wants to understand, she says the EV thing is the big new thing. Why wouldn't you understand your market? Why wouldn't you drive your Bolt? Why wouldn't you even drive a Tesla to see what that's all about? Instead, you're driving your big Cadillac to work every day. So that means you have no clue how EVs work. And here's my argument. Why do I think there might be a pileup? I think there's 2 reasons. First of all, 1, there are lots of EVs coming. It's great. I'm excited that there's almost every company is coming out with an EV version. Awesome. But let's look at the DC fast charge network, because ultimately you can have level 1 and level 2 chargers all you want, but if you really want to be able to travel around, you need fast charging. And what do I mean by fast charging? Something as fast as the Tesla Supercharger, at least, right? Which is, to be technical here, Tesla Superchargers can charge at about 135 kilowatts. So I'm talking something that fast. That would be the DC fast charge network. So let's look at that network as it stands right now. Let's go to Electrify America and look at their charging map of the United States.
Okay.
Here you go. See those little numbers in the circles?
Yep. So, I mean, they're distributed.
Yeah, but did you count the numbers? Count it up there.
That's you add that together. I'm getting 90.
Yep, that's 90. Now we went to their website and here it is. So we're not making this up here. They claim they have nearly 2,000 in the U.S. right now.
No, they don't. I mean, that's 90. I mean, that equals 90.
Maybe the definition of nearly means way less than.
Right. And I mean, so maybe they're talking about stalls. Maybe they're talking about individual stall locations.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we go to one of these locations, there's not that many stalls. There's not even as many stalls as a Supercharger.
Let's pretend we just bought an Audi e-tron.
Yep.
And we want to drive from Boston to Philadelphia.
Okay.
Okay. So let's call up the map.
Here we go.
And let's see what we can charge at.
Ooh.
We're going to...
Bit of a gap there.
We're not probably going to be able to make it.
Right. Well, I mean, you could make it because you could stop it at a lower charging rate charger. It's just that is massively inconvenient, and you really don't want to do that.
No.
I mean, let's look at that same area in Tesla Superchargers. It's dripping with them, right? It's absolutely, positively dripping with Superchargers. If you wanted to go a different route, if you wanted to stop and see grandma, you can make that happen.
Well, because keep in mind, right now in the United States, there's 608 Superchargers. There are 90 DC fast chargers, and we just tried to plan this, Boston to Philadelphia. Let's do a West Coast trip. Let's do LA to San Francisco.
Okay, LA,
it's California. It's got to be full of them.
Full of them.
Okay, call them out there, boys.
There's three.
There's three in California.
There's two near San Francisco, and then there's one in LA, and there's nothing in between. How far is LA and San Francisco?
Like 500 miles.
No electric car has that range, really.
Right.
So we wouldn't be able to make that.
So that's what I'm saying, is that the pileup is going to happen because as you begin to look like, hey, I might want to buy the I-Pace or the e-tron or something like that, if you actually look into it seriously, you're going to go, well, when I want to visit grandma's house, I'm not going to be able to drive there easily.
I would argue it's going to go one step further than that. I think that there are a lot of people who are excited. They're like, I only buy Audis because Audi is my brand. Audi is going to market to them. They're going to say, we have the Audi e-tron. Check it out. And they're going to go, awesome. I want one. Buy it. Click. Boom. Got it. Right? It's in their driveway. Suddenly they want to go on a trip. And all of a sudden, they realize that they can't make it, or that it's going to be extremely inconvenient or extremely expensive. And what will then happen is they're going to be talking to all of their friends, and so they're going to be going like, "Hey, the e-tron. So, Dave, what do you think of the e-tron?" He's going to be like, "Man, we tried to drive to grandma's house, and it took us 8 hours extra charging time because we had to use some slow charger at a Dunkin' Donuts." Not only that, I just want to point out that all of the chargers we're showing here on Electrify America, they have some kind of pay that you have to pay for them. So in most cases, it comes out way more expensive than at the Tesla Supercharger network. And currently, as of this recording right now, all of them don't work.
Right.
They have liquid-cooled cables. None of them work. They found that there is a problem with them and that they have to replace them all. So if I were today, right now, to have a car which could utilize this network, it would be like tomorrow if the Supercharger network just went down. Right. They said, oh no, all of our cables don't work. Sorry guys, it's down.
Well, and the other thing I want to point out is a lot of these chargers have just one or two stalls. And you know as well as I do that the chances of getting there and having it be free available to you are slim to none, because if you have to charge for hours there, then that means some other car is taking your space.
Right.
It's unreliable.
It really shows that the leaders of this, whether it be of the charging networks themselves or especially of the car manufacturers, don't try it. They aren't experiencing it the way that normal people will.
And here's the thing. You and I could make any of these competitors to Tesla rich. You want to know how? Mm-hmm. We would talk to them about the fact that they should partner with other companies. For instance, if Mary Barra would get out of her Cadillac and into a Bolt and actually learn that this is their problem right now, charging networks, she could call up McDonald's and she could say, hey, let's do a partnership where we put chargers at McDonald's. You help us pay for them and you'll have people driving there to charge. And while they're charging, they'll need to get out of their car and go shop at your store.
Right. Just to be clear, we are not like pro McDonald's.
No, I'm just picking a random. They could call any companies around.
Any place that has locations and say
it would help both partners.
Exactly. It could be anything, any company. Basically.
But are they doing that?
No.
They're doing this
single thing.
Pretend Electrify America, which spouts numbers that sound great. I mean, 2,000 chargers would be awesome.
Right.
But they don't exist.
There. No.
And then they say that by this July, they're going to have another 500. Well, if they don't have the first 2,000, how are they going to have another 500?
Right. Now, if tomorrow they said, we're hiring 50,000 people to install, 600 chargers in the next 2 months, I would go, wow, that's amazing.
Right.
Good job. You figured it out. It hasn't happened yet.
Right.
And that is why I think that the pileup is coming and that Tesla is not going to be in that pile. So I know what you're thinking. Some of you European viewers are saying, oh, you silly Americans and your terrible charging networks. We have lots and lots of chargers here in Europe. We are going to be fine. If I decide to buy an e-tron, I'll be fine.
Audi just announced their new charging fee structure.
So there's 2 tiers here.
Yes.
There's the city travel where you get level 2 and 50 kilowatt chargers.
Yep, and you can pay more per month and get the full CCS fast charge.
I see. And if you pay more per month, you don't get any cheaper.
No.
For the other things,
just get access
to the 50.
So let's plan a pretend charge between an Audi e-tron with a 90 kilowatt hour battery and a Tesla with a 90 kilowatt hour battery. Okay. And let's plug them both in, one to a Tesla Supercharger, one to the Audi CCS charger, and let's see what it would cost us to charge.
Okay. So the Tesla charge up, we're going to be playing it into Audi's favor here. Because, if you take a look, you have to pay just to plug in your car, right? So the longer you're charging your car for that session, the better. So let's say it's a full completely 0 to completely 90 kilowatt hour charging session.
Yep.
We estimated that it would take about 20 euros to charge your car in Germany.
Yep. Now let's look at the Audi e-tron. It would cost about 30 euros to charge the car, which I guess is more than the Tesla was at 20.
It is, right.
But unfortunately, there's some additional fees here. There's the 8 euro fee that you have to pay just for that one charging session.
Oh, so that bumps up the price.
Right, so now we're at about 38 euros. And then there's 17.95 euro monthly fee, which you don't have with Tesla. So we're looking at about double the price of the Tesla Supercharger network just to do that one charge.
Right. And that's, not even include, like if we even forget that monthly fee, let's say that you're charging up every single day and this charging fee is just adding a few, maybe 50 euro cents to each of your charge sessions, and you're just doing this every day and you'd be doing it with the Tesla too. You're still paying way more, almost double.
Right.
It's like if you went to the gas station, everyone else is paying, $2.50 per gallon and you have to pay $5 a gallon. You would be like,
why do
what? Just because of my car? Like,
right.
What? That's the problem, is that people are going to be upset about it. Now, it's still cheaper than gas.
Yep.
So that is a positive. I don't want to be harping on them for no reason.
You know that at Audi dealerships, that's how they're going to be selling it. Is cheaper than gas. They're not going to mention the fact that you could also buy a Tesla.
Absolutely.
Right. So this is an interesting story, Jesse. There's a company in New Jersey called TerraCycle, and their CEO, Tom Zaki, has started a new company called Loop. And Loop
is it a Hyperloop company?
No, it's not a transportation company.
Okay.
But it could be cool. What Loop is going to do is kind of go back to the old, remember back in the, I think it was the 40s, the milkman would come to your door.
I absolutely remember.
You remember that, right?
Fond memories of the milkman coming to our house.
And what would the milkman do? You would leave out your glass bottles of empty milk bottles, and he would replace them with full milk bottles. He'd take the old milk bottles back, they'd wash them, reuse them, and bring milk back every week.
Right.
So what Loop is going to do is they're going to be working with some pretty big companies like Procter & Gamble, and they are going to start delivering containers to your door full of your favorite products like shampoo, ice cream, laundry detergent. And they will be in stainless steel, aluminum, and glass bottles that can be then left back on your doorstep and recycled.
Interesting.
Replaced, right. And not recycled in the traditional way where they break the bottle down, but they just, I think, are going to plan on cleaning the bottle, refilling it, and bringing it back to you. So when I heard about this story, I was pretty excited because I'm like, that's great. We're not recycling plastic. We're not throwing away things. We're actually reusing, which if you remember in the old reduce, reuse, recycle is supposed to be the last thing you do. You're supposed to reduce first, reuse second, then recycle.
I see.
So I'm asking everyone out there to start thinking about this and think if this is something that works for you, because Greenpeace just said, while Greenpeace welcomes the aim of the Loop Alliance to move away from throwaway culture and disposability, what the platform will mean for the environment depends on whether corporations worldwide are actually ready to change their business models, or if this effort just becomes a distracting side project to generate positive PR.
Right. Okay. I mean, that is a really good point. I'm having some trouble imagining that some of these companies are actually going to go through with this. First of all, it has a lot to do with implementation.
Okay.
If instead of me going to the store, buying, usually dozens of products and then bringing them home with me, and then, yes, I am creating plastic waste. What if I'm like, oh, I want some shampoo, and it gets delivered to me in a giant diesel truck?
Right.
So, I mean, I would need to do some math to figure out which one is better. But then I am having trouble imagining brands actually wanting to do this. Now, there's a couple things here. Brands really like packaging. Packaging is the one way that they can really sell you on a product.
Why?
Basically, if it looks a certain way, if the packaging feels a certain way, if it's heavy enough, if it's cold enough, if it looks just like how they want you to think that it should look, they're able to kind of work their brand around the appearance of the product, and a lot of work goes into it. I've studied plastics engineering. A lot of work goes into the bottles. They need to look exactly perfect.
But I think what you're doing is you're comparing, when you go into a grocery store, there's all of these products fighting for your dollar. But once I've set up a relationship with, let's say, Crest toothpaste that gets delivered to my door, I'm just going to be dealing with that brand one-on-one forevermore. So I think that, if you go back to the milk bottle days, I don't remember hearing from grandparents and stuff that there was any problem. It just seemed like you set up an account with the milkman and that was now your milk supplier.
True, but I think that packaging hadn't developed into this kind of crazy, absolutely wild, everything has to come in a beautiful looking package. Like you buy shampoo and it looks like it should have some magical elixir in it.
But the people who are going to sign up for this program, I'm hoping, are the kind of people who care more about the environment than they do about the advertising.
I think that we need to have a discussion about it. So, let's talk about it. Let's figure out what would be the best way to implement reusability of the containers of our products.
So check out this new electric motorcycle, Jesse. This is from the Swedish company Cake, and they're a company known for their Kalk OR, which stands for off-road electric dirt bike. So they've just opened their pre-orders for the Kalk And, which will be their city bike, available hopefully in March with a deposit of $200 or euros.
Now, hang on. These two bikes look almost identical. I can't tell them apart.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that basically what they did was they took their off-road dirt bike and made it street legal by adding headlights, turn signals, license plate holder, and stuff like that. So it's basically the same bike, I think,
I see.
with those added. It should have a 15 kilowatt peak motor, 2.6 kilowatt hour battery, 100 kilometers an hour top speed, and an 80 kilometer range. So obviously not huge range or huge power, but I guess fun bike for around town.
So the price for the Kalk or the off-road version is $13,000. We're expecting that the road legal one is going to cost a little bit more. I think that this bike is really important.
Why?
I think just like with Alta Motors, they're making a dirt bike that functions just like a dirt bike, but it is electric. It is quiet. I think that the important thing, the takeaway here, is that even if they do not sell a single one, right? Even if all that is left in the world is this marketing video of a guy doing jumps and wheelies on an electric dirt bike, is that it is a cultural shift, a mental shift forward. So that way, people who like dirt bikes are going to be watching a video like this and going like, cool, an electric dirt bike. That's a possibility. Before, I think a lot of people always imagine electric as boring and slow. Having something that's sexy, that functions the same way, and has some benefits that start to get you thinking. A lot of people who like dirt bikes like the outdoors because you have to ride dirt bikes in the outdoors for the most part. If they're thinking, I love the outdoors, I love, how peaceful it is. If I could have a quieter dirt bike, I could be enjoying dirt biking and the outdoors at the same time. I think that cultural thing is small. It's minor. It might get overlooked right now, but the impact will be felt later when, there's a more affordable version of this motorcycle, or some other motorcycle company that comes out with either a more affordable or a better or something, a more widely available electric dirt bike. I think that is going to be huge.
And we experienced this when we did the Alta motorbike review. It was a completely different dirt bike experience.
Right.
All right, it's time for the lightning round.
All right, here we go.
So in the Tesla forums, there was a user who helped put together these 6 states and the bills that are in those states that are going to hopefully end the U.S. Tesla sales bans. So the way it's going to work, folks, is that if you see your state on there, click on the link, read the bill. If you agree with it, contact your legislators and let them know that you want this bill passed. If these bills pass, we should hopefully be able to end the sales bans in those states. Because as you remember, Tesla can't operate in certain states.
Right.
You have to go to an adjacent state, or they limit the number of showrooms in that state, which is ridiculous. So let's put an end to it. These bills might be able to help do that. Here's a really cool map that I found, and I want to give a shout out to Brock for sharing this with us. It is a map of all the power plants currently in the U.S., and there's this cool slider on the website, so I urge you to go there and play around with it yourself. But as you can see here, I'm going to have Brent and Bobby kind of slide back and forth. First, let's take a look at the black or gray coal plants. Now, as you slide from 2007 to 2016, you see that the number of coal plants kind of slowly is disappearing, especially in places like the East Coast.
Yeah.
And then if you look for I want you to look really closely in the middle of the country for little blue dots. Those are wind power. So if you see in 2007, not a lot of blue dots. Now as we go to 2016,
they're everywhere.
Lots of blue dots. So it is a cool way for you to kind of see how things are transitioning. Like for instance, on the East Coast, we're getting a lot more gas power plants to replace coal, which I mean, it's better than coal, but hopefully in the next 10 years, we'll start to see a lot more solar and wind. In Wallonia, Belgium, as of March 1st, it'll be illegal to idle an ICE car when, for example, you're waiting to pick up your kids or when you're parked. The first offense will be a €50 fine. And this is because in Belgium, air pollution causes approximately 9,000 deaths per year.
Wow. And Belgium is a small country, too. So
yeah.
9,000, that's a lot per capita.
Yeah. According to the IEW, running the engine for more than 10 seconds consumes more and emits more CO2 than restarting the engine.
Interesting.
And when the engine is idling, it does not operate at its optimum temperature. Since the fuel does not burn completely, residues accumulate, and this can cause premature damage to some parts of the engine.
Not only is it worse for everyone for you to be idling your car, but just having your car idling is hurting its engine.
Right.
So you could make your whole car last longer if you were to just shut it off every time you were idling.
So this is kind of scary, Jesse. 400 schools have been forced to close in Thailand because of high levels of PM 2.5.
Now, what is PM 2.5?
Those are the tiny, infinitesimally small 2.5 microns, which is smaller than a human hair width, of particles that are emitted into the air by engines. And so you breathe them in, and then they get, you can't filter them out. It's not like they're just dust, which you can get out of your system. They actually get into your bloodstream and poison you.
They closed schools due to smog, basically. So, I mean, I think it's good that they are trying to prevent exposure to pollution, but I don't think that they're implementing this in the right way. First of all, they are not trying to, curb emissions and lower smog. And secondly, what are these kids doing if they're not at school? Are they sitting in filtered rooms?
Right.
Or are they going to be playing outside?
I mean, most kids are within a mile or two of their schools where they live, right? So they're in smog. And unless they're, like you said, kept in a hermetically sealed room, they're going to be breathing the smog whether they're at school or not. Speaking of the environment, the Canadian Supreme Court recently made a ruling that would not allow companies to walk away from environmental messes by filing for bankruptcy. So, I mean, normally when a company files for bankruptcy, that's it. A court decides that they'll pay off certain creditors and they can walk away from oil spills or contamination. But what the Supreme Court in Canada is saying is that now, as part of the bankruptcy, they're going to have to figure out how to put the environment first and pay for any cleanups that they caused.
So this would put the environment in front of any other creditors.
Right.
I think that is the best way to do it.
Exactly.
I mean, the environment affects everyone.
Right.
So if you have a giant oil spill, that should be taken care of first before your investors.
Yeah,
this should
creditors. This environmental law should be in every nation of the world. And if we go back to the Thailand pollution story, researchers just found that young people were 3 to 4 times more likely to have depression at the age of 18 if they had been exposed to dirtier air at the age of 12. Think about this for a second, because they did comparisons with earlier work which indicated that air pollution is a greater risk factor than physical abuse in raising the risk of teenage depression.
When you're a child and your brain is developing and you're breathing in air, you're going, I'm a kid, breathing in air. If that air contains pollution, that's going to be entering your lungs, entering your bloodstream, and it's going to be affecting the way that your brain gets developed to making you more susceptible to depression?
Yes. I want to give a huge shout out to our newsroom and especially Tom this week for finding these stories, which otherwise would go unfound because, I mean, the internet's a big place.
Right.
But he combed through and found these stories, so thank you so much. Now, all of you in Europe are getting super excited about Model 3s arriving on your shores, and we want to let you know about a couple more ships we found out about, the Grand Aurora and the Glovis Courage. You can track both of these on marinetraffic.com. You can see that the Glovis Courage should be docking in San Francisco on February 7th and loading up with more Model 3s. And the Grand Aurora is headed through the Panama Canal right now on its way to Europe. So let's look at the Consumer Reports top 10 joyful cars. Let's start at the bottom of the list.
Okay.
Number 10 is the Dodge Challenger.
Cool.
Then we've got the Prius, the Bolt, the Stinger, the Avalon. Oh, hey, there's the Model S.
Nice.
We got the Corvette, the Genesis G90, which we had to look up.
Right. It's a luxury Hyundai brand.
Yeah. Then we got the Porsche 911. That makes a lot of people happy. And the number one most joyful car is
the Tesla Model 3. The most joyful above a Porsche 911, above a Corvette.
Also this week, Consumer Reports rated the top-rated luxury compact car, and with 92 out of 100 points, number one went to
Model 3. Tesla didn't just come out with a car that was like, hey, it's electric and it's got range and you can supercharge. It's
Hope you like it.
Right. Oh, it's kind of boring and slow and ugly. No, they were like, here is a car that you're gonna love every aspect of. And it's so true. It's the most fun car I've ever driven.
Yeah.
Including other Teslas, and it's got everything you could possibly need.
Yeah, it's romantic, it's farty.
You got autopilot. I mean, there's so much to love about this car.
So here's some cool news. The Nissan NV200, which is one of Nissan's most popular vans, they make a diesel and an electric variant. We just heard that they're going to be discontinuing their diesel version this summer, and so they're only going to be making the battery version. Now, it shares the same battery, the 40 kilowatt hour battery, as the Leaf, and we're wondering, like, are they going to upgrade it to the new 62 kilowatt hour battery that the Leaf is getting?
Right, we have no idea.
We think what's going on here is that they're soon going to be announcing the NV250. Along with, they have the NV300 and the NV400. They are going to have diesel versions of this van.
Right.
But the 200 will be completely electric.
Now, they've already increased the electric versions by 50% up to 6,000 units, which is exciting, but it's not like they're switching all their vans to electric. It's just this one van that they've been making for a while, and they're just discontinuing.
Right. I mean, it's the typical
200.
big auto story where they're just dipping their toe into the water, but
Right.
we want to give credit where credit is due, and it's great to hear that this model will be completely electric. All right, it's time for our video contributor story. What do we got this week?
Stijn from Netherlands is explaining how the Audi e-tron battery system can handle 800-volt charging.
Hi Zach and Jesse, it's Stijn here from the Netherlands. I'm a first day Model 3 reservation holder and I happen to be an electrical engineer. So in your last video, Tesla Time News, you were talking about the Audi e-tron 800 volt charging system. And I want to clarify some things. So when you look at the top on the whiteboard behind me, there's a formula used in electrical engineering. It is power equals voltage times current. So this is true always. When you look at the Tesla supercharging example, that's 130 kilowatts equals 400 volts times 325 amperes. Tesla uses 400 volts batteries, and this is the current that flows into these batteries and supercharging at 130 kilowatts. Okay, so let's look at the 800 volt example from Audi e-tron. I found in some sources that they plan on using 350 kilowatts. So when you do the calculation, you get that they're using 437 amperes to get to the same 350 kilowatts. Okay, so that's the difference, but it's not as dramatic as you might think. And you have to bear in mind that it's the current that causes battery degradation. So more current causes more internal heating of the batteries, and that causes degradation. And as you can see, the difference isn't as dramatic as you might think, which they can do because of the double voltage compared to Tesla. So double the voltage means the same current for double the power. Right? Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper. I've written down 3 batteries from EVs that you might know. So this is the Tesla Model S 85. It uses 96 cells in series, so these are actual battery cells, and 76 cells in parallel. And if you would multiply these two, you get the total number of cells, but we're not that interested right now. Okay. When you use the 325 amperes from the example here, so this is a Tesla Model S 85 supercharging at 130 kilowatts, so 325 amperes. You get 4.5 amps per cell. Okay, so let's look at the Model 3. The Model 3 long range uses 96 cells in series. It's the same as the Model S because it's also a 400 volt system. The Model 3 uses 46 cells in parallel. That's less because you have to bear in mind the Model 3 uses 2170 cells, which are bigger and can handle more power. Okay, using the same 325 amperes divided by 46, you get 7 amperes per cell on the Model 3. It's more than the Model S, as you can see. Okay, so now let's take a look at the Audi e-tron. Of course, we haven't seen an Audi e-tron battery yet, so this is conjecture. I am not sure, but I've looked at the Model S 85 and I've taken double the amount of series cells and half the amount of parallel cells. So what this comes out to is that the Audi e-tron would have the same amount of power, 85 kilowatt hours, but use 800 volt system instead of 400 volts. Okay, so looking at this example, using 437 amperes, the Audi e-tron would take 11.5 amperes per cell. So as you can see, there's a difference, but it's again not as dramatic as you might think it is. And bear in mind, the Audi e-tron isn't yet released, we're not sure what its battery is going to look like, and we are pretty sure that they are going to use a different technology than Tesla. So they might have a different internal resistance and which results in less internal heating. Okay, so I hope you learned something today. And now back to you, Zach and Jesse. Oh, and before you go, I would like to remind you, I am the engineer that designed the Pure system.
All right, it's time for our Patreon bonus stories. So if you head on over to Patreon for as little as $1 a month, you can check out all of our stories. And we got so many this week, Jesse. We got some cool Super Bowl ads that we can only show over there that we'll be telling you about. Some we're making fun of and some we're giving kudos to. Hey everybody, we're back from the Patreon bonus stories, and it's time for our Patreon shout-outs. These are people who support us for $5 or more a month. And Jesse, we have a very special shout-out to do. We were contacted this week by a Patreon of ours who said that he had a great friend of his who passed away a few years ago, Peter J. McKay, and he was wondering if he could become part of our Patreon community. So he gave a little bit more in his name, and we just want to give a special shout out to Peter J. McKay. Sounds like a fantastic individual who had a very adventurous spirit, and I'm just so glad that he's lives on as part of our community.
Absolutely. Also, a very special thank you to Livure, Natastad Leidersen,
Teximi Mundaka,
Larry Owens,
Tracy Adams,
Stein Lithen,
True to the Flame,
Bob Chaput,
David DeMatt,
Baird Edmonds,
Howard Lickman,
Michael Lawrence Young,
Neil Milk,
Tumas Mardi,
and Watch Hobbyist. Thank you so much, you guys, for supporting us at this level. All right, it's time for Elon's tweets of the week. And the first one here is a huge shout out to Gally from Hyperchange. And he got a thank you from Elon, too. So Gally tweeted out to Elon, huge thank you to Tesla, Say, and Elon Musk for working together to give retail investors a voice on the call, talking about the earnings call, disrupting investor relations and the EV industry, proud shareholder. And Elon said, "You're most welcome." Very thoughtful question. So we're going to be talking about this more on In Depth tomorrow because Gali's work got about 5 or 6 questions on the Tesla conference call.
Yeah.
If it weren't for him, we would just hear from the boring analysts.
Yeah.
So thank you, Gali. And the second tweet I'm going to need your help with, Jesse.
Okay.
Elon said, if heat death will be inevitable end of universe, it actually is all about journey.
So what he's saying here is, the heat death of the universe is what physicists at the moment predict the end of the universe will be. So basically everything is going to reach equilibrium. Okay. So the thing that makes everything interesting is that there's a bunch of energy that makes up my body, and that there's a bunch of interesting energy that makes up your body. We're able to have thoughts and synapses in our brains, but what will happen over time is that entropy will run its course and everything will just slowly turn into just boring, well-distributed heat. Basically, you can't do anything if everything is boring. All of the stars will burn up. The universe will go dark. There'll be no more energy.
Gosh,
and that'll be
at a deep level.
So, this is in billions of years, so I don't want to be a super big downer, but the idea here is that in kind of the greater context of life in the universe, the journey is really going to be the ultimate thing, because we can't be like, and then we're going to get to utopia, because you can't, because the universe will end.
Well, I'm glad you're on this journey with me.
So
thanks.
So thank you for joining us all on this journey through time and space. And let's bring it now to Community Mail Time. Community Mail Time.
First of all, big thank you to Tom in the newsroom for tons of cool stories this week. Now a big thank you to Leviathan in Aspen, Colorado at the X Games. Check out this footage he got firsthand of the Rivian R1T. He said, "I was very impressed with the Rivian R1T. It has a strong presence to it, and it carries a unique style that will be great for brand recognition. I had mixed feelings on the front end like most people, but understood why it was that way. But I am warming up to it, if not favoring it. The interior was so nice that I'm skeptical of the starting price. Now, I know this won't necessarily be for the blue-collar worker at its conception, especially with its price tag. It will be more geared toward the weekend warrior or adventurous outdoorsman, the Range Rover and Jeep crowd. Setting the price and subjective looks aside, it may be just the most utilitarian, practical, and non-compromising vehicle ever conceived. You get all the off-road capability with a good smooth highway ride due to weight, low center of gravity, and adjustable suspension. Plenty of storage with the cavernous frunk, more than enough range for most, and come with all kinds of good useful features including onboard air compressor and 110-volt outlets. All this paired with the efficiency of a 4-motor electric drivetrain. What more could you want?" I totally agree. That's why I've got a deposit on one.
Absolutely, and we're so excited about it.
Yeah, and he even got footage of that J1772 and CCS combo charge port, which gives you 80 miles of charge in 15 minutes at 200 kilowatts.
Right. That's going to be exciting when those stations start coming out.
Yeah. All right, this is a video of Todd showing a Model 3 at the mall in Australia.
Hi, Zach and Jesse. We're at High Point Shopping Centre in Melbourne, Australia. And on display, first time I've ever seen one, is a Model 3 alongside a Model X. Model 3 right here. Very, very popular. Very popular. All kids and families are hopping in and out. I must say it looks a lot better in person than I had been expecting.
Alongside the Model 3 was a Model X, also on display and attracting a fair amount of attention. But the main attraction for me was the Model 3, as I hadn't seen one of those before and I was keen to walk all around it and have a sit inside and get an appreciation that I couldn't get from watching YouTube videos and your show, as great as it is. Also took lots of photos, and as were other people, making the most of the opportunity. It's a really beautiful car. I really love the way it looks at the back especially, and I loved that red colour.
This is Todd from Melbourne, Australia. Now you know.
Thank you, Todd. And Thomas says that superchargers in Rubingen, Switzerland are ready. Take a look at this. Pictures showing that there's even Model 3 stickers on there saying Model 3 priority. Isn't that cool? Our friend James had a supercharger idea. He wrote to us and he said he has a suggestion for a new supercharger location, and he wished there was a way to get all these ideas to Tesla. So that gave me an idea. So I reached out to Fred at moretesla.com. Remember, that's the site where you can go to give ideas that you'd like the cars to have, and you can upvote them and downvote
for
them.
features, right? And bug fixes for the cars themselves. But now...
Yeah, Fred said that he liked this idea too, and that he's going to add this as a feature. So you can go on there in a few weeks, hopefully when he's got it done, and you can put your ideas for supercharger locations. And then upvote and downvote the ones that are there.
That's really cool.
Neat. All comes from an idea. Thank you, James. Our friend Kevin has an idea, Jesse. You remember last week on In Depth, we talked about that there could be Tesla police cars. And so he said, hey guys, just watching the latest show, I've always thought for 30 years it's totally ridiculous that police cars can't really put a fast stop to a chase. Now Tesla's on the scene. They need a big frunk. So what needs to happen as soon as the car is close, it locks on its lasers at the rear, and a special harpoon shoots out from a small hole in the front bumper into the rear of the bad guy's car. Then the officer just lets the high regen go for a while, so slowly getting charged and putting the strain on the engine in front. Then, if he sees fit, pulls the cord so it's closer, then brings it to a controlled stop, and at any time the car can sever the rope with special snips. This is the kind of idea I think that Kevin should be on the Tesla team, coming up with cool police ideas, because if we innovate the Tesla police car, we're going to have way better ways to catch criminals. I mean, why let them drive off on a high-speed chase? That is just dangerous and stupid.
Well, I mean, because up until this point, there really aren't that many ways to stop it. I mean, there are lots of ideas of like a thing that'll wrap around the tire and bring the car to a stop. But I think that, these should be implemented in the cars themselves. So, I mean, basically, it should be a Batmobile. Like we were saying on our in-depth. Yeah, I mean, a James Bond kind of car or a Batmobile. It should be able to stop criminals. Right. It should be a criminal stopping machine.
Exactly.
That's the point. And that's why Batman is so cool. And we're all like, wow, Batman is so great. And the police departments hate him because he's a vigilante. But like, if the police departments just had the Batmobile, we wouldn't be in such a mess.
Exactly. Our friend Remy shared with us this spreadsheet that our European viewers can use to enter their Model 3 order data, and then they can go check out the stats in all sorts of ways. You can see by country and what type of cars were ordered. Really cool. This second spreadsheet he shared shows the conversion of the EU's Supercharger network to CCS. Those are the ones that Model 3s can charge at. So we were up to 25% of them that had CCS last week. Get this, I just checked today, they're over 33%.
Wow. They're changing
in just a week
so fast.
Yeah,
that's
so
amazing.
If you want to know like which superchargers you can go to right now, check out this list. And then lastly, he reminded me about this Neft level video, which we played back on TTN 75, which is all about the Euro Tesla Supercharger network and how it works. So go back to that video. We'll put the link down below if you need a refresher course on how that works. Our friend Villy was recently in the Sandvika shopping center near Oslo, Norway, and saw this on the second floor. And then Robert from Sydney, Australia, sent us these fun license plates from down under. Always good to have a cool license plate on your EV.
Absolutely.
If you can do it. And then here's a fun story. So Nason and Matan, they are our neighbors in Yellow Springs, Ohio. They also used our referral code to get their Model 3. And this is their Model 3. They're friends. They're neighbors. They live next to each other. And they decided to get a Model 3 together. That's a great idea. So think about that. People out there are watching like, oh, I can't quite afford a Model 3. Go find someone else who wants a Model 3 and share it.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
And check this out, Jesse. T-Magazin, which is a magazine in Germany, all with really cool stories about Tesla and stuff. They said T-Magazin is our experiment to realize Elon's idea of Pravda in the German diesel-infested media landscape. They've got an article about us on page 25 and on page 6.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
And it looks like it's full of lots of other interesting stories. I can't read German, so for our German viewers, you're definitely going to be in for a treat.
And then we got a photo of this sent to us of a truly iced supercharger in Achenstatten, Germany.
Man, someone should tow that snow out of there.
Our friend Tim from Neft Level in Germany was walking on a pier in Hamburg, and he sat down at a nice outdoor cafe on this pier to enjoy the sun on a cold day. But as he started sipping his drink, the sun disappeared behind a thick cloud. Not a natural cloud, but a cloud from the nearby coal power plant. And everything got very cold, and he said that he and others eating at the cafe got up and left. He He said it was the first time he realized a direct effect of the coal power plant on his life.
Sadly, it is not the only effect on his life.
No. And then lastly, our friend Mark got his new Model 3, and he said, this week I had to switch to an ICE rental while getting the little ding given to my fender fixed. Even though I got a Camry with radar enhanced cruise, it is no substitute for enhanced autopilot when it comes to Vegas's stop-and-go traffic. It highlighted how enjoyable my commute has become and how I don't dread congestion when my Tesla can handle the moment-by-moment advances and pauses, with me only needing to keep an eye on it, but not to concentrate on it.
It's an excellent point.
Wow. A lot of cool contributor mail. I'm so glad you sent that to us. Keep sending it in. We love it. It's now time for our Patreon viewer question. A couple things. We had a question a week or so ago about vampire drain, and we had a form that you can fill out. We've gotten about 100 of you to fill it out, so thank you. But Jesse would like more data. Here's the data we've got so far.
Too messy. We need more data points.
More data.
And please fill out the sheet carefully.
Okay.
We had to throw out some points because they were not properly filled out. If you drive a Model 3, we have special options for range in there. But basically, if we can get more points and more data, we're going to be able to build a nice graph to kind of understand the correlation between temperature, time, and battery size and vehicle for vampire drain.
Then we had a question for our Patreons about the super cold weather that's hit the U.S. and how it affected your Teslas. And here's a cool answer we got from William. He said, here in Grand Forks, North Dakota, we had some extremely cold temps. When it was minus 25, minus 70 with wind chill, and minus 35 air temperature, these are all in Fahrenheit, I saw the following with my Model 3, named Jarvis. The range dropped about 10% per hour if it was not plugged into 120 volts or higher, and while driving, I noticed the range dropped quickly. For example, on the 29th, I arrived to work with 203 miles of range, and with driving home that evening, I arrived home with 136 miles available. So, energy consumption was higher, about 450 kilowatts per mile for the one-way 25-mile trip. I did not have issues with the handles, but I did notice a bit of frost built up inside. The frost did clear up quickly with an adjustment to the temperature setting, moving from 68 to 72 degrees. Overall, even in this extremely cold weather, I was impressed with how Jarvis performed, and it far exceeds any ICE vehicle. For comparison, my wife drives a 2016 Dodge Ram 2500 diesel truck, and she had issues with starting it and being warm. Overall, the Model 3 is a great car, even in the cold.
Wow. Because, I mean, yeah, I've noticed, ice buildup, and I've noticed, range isn't quite as good as it could be, but I'm able to warm it up from my app, walk out to the car is warm. I was even able to, go to a store in the middle of a snowstorm, keep the car set to 60 degrees, right, so the climate was running. It only used 2 miles while I was in the store. I came out. I didn't have to brush off my car. Everyone else was brushing off their car. I walked out. My car just had a bunch of water on it. As soon as I zipped off, no problemo.
Nice.
Really, really awesome. I mean, that's the thing. So many people were asking me, well, what happens when it gets cold? Not much.
Right.
It might limit your regen braking and your acceleration if it gets really, really cold, but if you're plugged in, that doesn't happen.
All right, it's time for Supercharger reviews. Let's see what we got this week.
Hi, Zach and Jexy. I'm in downtown Ottawa at the Redu Centre, and it's opposite the Nouveau Hotel, and it's in the underground car park. Yeah, the junction of Bessera and Nicholas Street. You choose the right hand lane through the small door, which will automatically open as you approach. You'll notice the Tesla sign is actually hidden behind the green "No Trailers Allowed" sign. There are 8 urban chargers here, and it's a pay car park, so it costs $2 for each half hour. Charge on level P3, and despite the parking fee, the rating for this location is priceless when you need that charge. Hello and welcome to the 8-stall supercharger in Custer, South Dakota. It's a small town, but still 8 supercharging ports. 1 pull in and the rest back in. The superchargers are located right behind a Dakota Mart grocery store, and they are open from 7 to 9. So if you're here late or overnight, you're probably going to have a hard time finding anything that's open, at least within walking distance. Right on the main street on Mount Rushmore Road, there's a place called Our Place, and they serve breakfast and brunch. We just ate there, and it was pretty good food, kind of dinery food, but good and enjoyable meal. So other than being right behind the grocery store, it's pretty easy to find and pretty near to Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse Monument, and Custer State Park. Good location if you're vacationing in this area, but again, in the evening and overnight hours, there's not going to be a lot around.
Hey, Zach and Jesse. Here we are at the destination Charger in the bed and breakfast called La Paz. It's a few miles north of Jasper, East Texas. This place is wonderful because you have this destination Charger there, but otherwise you are surrounded by forest and the only neighbors you have are the squirrels. There you have a great bed and breakfast there. The owner of the place, Paul and Anne, are wonderful people, very warm, and they will make you feel very welcome. So I advise you and very strongly to come visit this place. It's a very nice stay.
That is the best part of the week, other than the Patreon bonus stories.
Absolutely.
For me. All right, what do we got for new Superchargers this week, Jess?
We have the 8 stall in Hudson, Mass.
Another one in Massachusetts.
Woohoo!
These are all in the U.S. this week. 8 stall in Staunton, Virginia.
8 stall in Salamanca, New York.
The 24 stall in San Diego, Friars Road, California.
Number 608 in the U.S. and 1,449 in the world is the 28 stall at the San Jose Santana Row, California.
All right, and we are up to number 118 on Be Free. We've got GRD Watch. Hello, Zach and Jesse. GRD would like to offer any Tesla employee and viewers of our channel a 20% discount from our website, as well as free worldwide shipping. We offer a range of automotive-inspired taco watches. GRD strives to create new and inspiring watches. So yeah, check them out if you're a Tesla employee, because you're going to get a huge discount on a very cool watch. And for a past video, this is an oldie but goodie, Jesse. You remember when your, what was it, 2004 Subaru Forester broke down? For good, pretty much.
Right, and this is the story of how I got my Leaf and, you know, the advantages that it had over buying what would have just been another, you know, cheapo ICE car that would have broken in a few years. You know, we recorded this about a year ago, and yeah, Leaf's still running. So you should definitely check out this video if you're like, if your car is dying, or if you're like, man, I really want to switch to an EV, but I can't afford a Tesla. This is one way to get yourself in a car which will not break down. And I can't say enough good things about my used Nissan Leaf, except that the range was lackluster.
It's the Patreon giveaway.
All right, it is time for our Patreon giveaway. And let's see, what are we giving away this week, Jesse? We're giving away this cool Poster Envy Falcon 9 parking only posters. Violators will be melted.
Nice.
So how do you get in this big tub of fun?
So if you are a Patreon supporter, for every $1 that you pay to support this channel a month, correlates into a card. All right, and the winner is Dave and Sarah Woods.
Congratulations, Dave and Sarah. You'll be getting a Falcon 9 parking only poster,
yeah,
and we will sign it if I can find a pen. Well, thank you for joining us all the way to the end. I think this was a fun episode this week because we got to talk about some non-Tesla things, because we have such a big in-depth coming up tomorrow with so much Tesla stuff. I just want to tell you, so like the earnings call is full of stuff, but we've had a few more days than most Tesla tubers had to kind of decompress, and so we're gonna have, I think, a different take than a lot of them did. So I mean, I know you might be saying like, well, tomorrow's in-depth is going to be very out of time, not very timely. But I think that actually having more time to actually think about it might be useful. So yeah, we just urge you to tune in for that and see what we've got there. I also want to give a little push here for our Amazon affiliate link. If you see it down below, there's 2 links, one for international and one for US, and you can use that the next time that you're shopping on Amazon. Also, if you like to listen to podcasts and you're driving in the car, or you like to listen in the shower but you can't watch YouTube, this is available as a podcast. So is In Depth, and so are some of our other shows like Mind Walk. So you can go to Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, and you can listen to us there. In fact, almost all of your favorite podcast places will have it. If you'd like to join the newsroom, we don't talk about this that often, but we have a newsroom of about 100 people in like 15 time zones around the world, and they contribute on on Slack every week to finding stories that we normally, I mean, we're just two humans. We couldn't do this without the newsroom.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, we're able to, try and call through as many news sources as we can, but like, I am not checking through like the Hamburg Times in Germany, mostly because I don't have a subscription, and also because like, there's so many other places to worry about. And so this newsroom is this crazy thing. I don't even know how we came up with it one day. I think we had enough
Out
people.
of desperation, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of people around the world who were sending us stories, and we were like, if only we could have a bunch of smart people all talking about these news stories, bringing them all in and everything like that. It's awesome. If you're interested, message us on Facebook, Patreon, for people in the Discord.
Can I talk about Discord?
Yeah, let's talk about Discord.
Some people watching might be like, what are you talking about? So if you become a Patreon supporter, we have a perk level, a $3 level that you can get in on our Discord. And Discord is just a community, a place where you can chat. And we've got 200 people on there now?
Yep.
And we have all sorts of different topics that you can talk about. And we get on there whenever we can and chat as well. So it's a great, awesome community of friendly, positive people talking about, they have questions or they have things they found.
Right. It's a great place to conjecture. It's a great place to share or learn about projects that people are working on. There are people building electric skateboards, and they're posting videos and talking about it on our Discord. It's super fun.
Yeah, we have a Discord channel about Mindwalk, and there's people talking. They're actually posting their spreadsheets.
5-year plans.
Yeah, and we're able to talk about, I was able to give some feedback last week about, what I think was positive or good about them. That's just super duper powerful. Because, one of the things I talked about in the Mindwalk is that you can't do this alone. You need friends and mentors and family and people to help kind of nudge you sometimes. Having a Discord where you talk about that, great way to keep you moving forward on your plan.
And also, the names rolling past here, there's more names here than there are on Discord. And every name here is someone who could be on Discord. So if you're watching this and you're looking for your name, you are eligible for Discord. There are just a couple of steps you need to go through, but basically you could be joining this community with us because you're already paying for it. Basically, it's a perk that we added to increase the value of what you are bringing to the channel, because it's so important and wonderful to have this kind of support. Because again, with YouTube and their ad revenue system, sometimes we'll put up a video and it'll get demonetized because we showed a video of a car driving. That's happened to us so many times. We have to pre-upload our videos to make sure that YouTube won't steal all our ad revenue and give it to someone else just because we're, falling within fair use, showing a car and talking about, its specs or whatever. That's fair use. YouTube still consistently is, copyright law and YouTube don't mix.
No.
It doesn't work. They live within different realms, and it's just really frustrating. We're not the only YouTubers talking about this.
No, that's a really good point. If we had to rely on every video put out to make our living, then we couldn't do it without you guys.
We would have to have stopped earlier. We would have had to seriously looked at our lives and been like, can we continue this, or is this going to bankrupt us? And it would have bankrupted us a long time ago, because the amount of money that we put into this channel, not only through, from editors and camera equipment and just time, but also, the other stuff that we have planned, the exciting things. And that's why we're so excited about everyone who's a part of our Patreon, because we are trying to create this unbelievable thing. We're trying to create this EV circus that's going to be, driving across this country. We're going to be getting...
and Europe.
And Europe. We're thinking of Europe as well, of, just arrive at a town that, we've pre-planned and come up with a place that we could do it with a semi-truck full of electric cars or tractors, and have other, brands and stuff bring their own cars. It's going to be so exciting, and everyone on our Patreon is a part of it. So thank you.
All these names are a part of it.
Thank you to everyone who's on this list. And thank you to everyone who's on our Patreon. And thank you so much to you for watching, because you also make this possible. If we had all these Patreons and no one was watching, we wouldn't have all these Patreons and no one would be watching. So thanks so much for watching. Please hit the like button. It plays around with the YouTube algorithm. I don't know what it's going to really do, but hopefully it does a positive thing and more people will get to see this, so that more people
proved that it does.
More people will hopefully know about the coming EV revolution and about pollution and climate change and everything like that. So, it's really important. Thanks so much for watching.
Now
Now
you
you
know.
know.